Namaskar. Hello, friends. I have been sharing my practical insights into some selected verses of the Bhagavad Gita. I have completed 17 chapters, taking up chapter 18 today. Verses 2, 3, 4, 5 of chapter 18. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavaye Viduhu सर्वकर्म फल त्यागम प्राहुस्त्यागम विचक्षणाः त्याज्यम दोषवदित्येके कर्म प्राहुर्मनीषिणः यज्ञदान तपः कर्म न त्याजम इति चापरे निश्चयं शृणु मे तत्र त्यागे भरतसत्तम त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र त्रिविधः संप्रकीर्तितः यज्ञोदानं तपः कर्म न त्याजं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्. Literal meaning. Shri Krishna said, the wise men say that giving up kamya karmas, that is karmas arising out of desires, is sannyas. And they say that performing all karmas but giving up the fruit thereof is tyag, that is renunciation. Many scholars say that karma is faulty and hence it should be discarded, and many other scholars say that one should never discard karmas like yajna, charity and penance. O Arjuna, I will tell you what my opinion is in respect of sannyas and tyag. Tyag is said to be of three types. The karmas of yajna, charity and penance should not be discarded. They must be performed because the karmas of yajna, charity and penance purify the mind of the performer who performs them without desire for fruit thereof. Practical insight. These verses are very important as they clarify the difference between giving up karma and giving up only the fruits of karma. The concept of yajna here in the context of today's times should be understood as our duties and not quite as the fire rituals of the olden times. The Lord is very clear that karma should not be given up. It is by performing the necessary karmas, that is duties, that our mind gets purified. However, it is important to remember that we should not have a feeling of doership while performing those karmas and should not bother about the fruit of the karmas. Such karmas are liberating. While the karmas in the nature of our duties should never be discarded, karmas arising out of desires of sense organs and ego should be avoided. Such karmas are binding rather than liberating because their fruit must be experienced. For example, if we eat a sweet, its sweet taste and the after effects of eating the sweet cannot be avoided. Verses 6 to 9 of chapter 18. एतान्यपि तु कर्माणि संगं फलानि त्यक्त्वा च कर्तव्यानीति मे पार्थ निश्चितं मतमुत्तमम् नियतस्य तु सन्न्यासः कर्मणो नोपपद्यते. मोहात् तस्य परित्यागस्तामसः परिकीर्तितः. दुःखमित्येव यत्कर्म कायक्लेशभयात् त्यजेत् स कृत्वा राजसं त्यागं नैव त्यागफलं लभेत्. कार्यमित्येव यत्कर्म नियतं क्रियते अर्जुन संगं त्यक्त्वा फलं चैव स त्यागः सात्विको मतः. Literal meaning. But, O Arjuna, It is my firm and best view that karmas must be performed without any feeling of doership and without any desire for the fruit of the karmas. It is not proper to give up nitya naimittik karmas, that is daily routine righteous karmas. If someone discards them out of ignorance, then it is called a tamas tyaga. One who regards karma as very grievous is afraid that it will cause pains and suffering to his body and hence discards karma, is indulging in rajas tyaga and hence he will not get the fruit of that tyaga. Arjuna, satvik tyag is where one performs one's assigned regular routine karma, regarding it as his duty, discarding any desire for fruit thereof, as also discarding doership. Practical insight. These verses describe the three different kinds of tyaga and the best way to do it. Here also the same fundamental distinction on the basis of sattva, rajas and tamas is made. Satvik tyag is the best since it involves doing one's duties without any doership and without any expectation of fruit. Regular duties should not be avoided. Verses 10 and 11 of chapter 18. Nadveshtya kushalam karma kushale nanushajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chinna samshayah nahi deha bhrita shakyam tyaktum karmanyasheshatah yastu karma phalatyagi satyagityabhidhiyate. Literal meaning. One who does not hate kamya karma and does not get attached to punya karma is an intelligent man with a pure mind, and he gets liberated because he harbors no doubts in his mind. It is not possible for a person living in his body to discard all karmas, but one who discards the fruits of karmas, however, is the real renunciate. Practical insight. We are born with our individual karma baggage and we cannot avoid performing that karma. So it is best for a spiritual seeker not to be judgmental about the karma that he as an individual is performing. He should not compare his karma with someone else's. He shouldn't say this particular karma is bad and some other karma is good. Along with this attitude, the seeker should not bother about the fruit of his karma. Then he will be liberated. Avoiding karma cannot liberate, but discarding the fruit and not harboring doership and not being judgmental about the karma is liberating. It is on the basis of this philosophy that the Gita says elsewhere that if one has this attitude, even if he kills 1,000 people, no sin accrues to him. Verse 12. Anishtamishtam mishrancha trividam karmanah phalam bhavatyattyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit. Literal meaning. One who does not discard the fruits of karma gets three kinds of fruits, bad, good and mixed, after his death. But sannyasis, that is those who discard fruits of karmas, never get these fruits. Practical insight. This verse makes an important point about the relationship between karma and fruit and how it binds a person. Any action performed with a desire for fruit establishes an association between action and its fruit. It also means that if the desired fruit is not achieved, the person is moved to act again to get the desired fruit. Even when a person gets the desired fruit, it has the effect of consolidating the association between action and fruit. Either way, it perpetuates life based on karma, and that is the bondage of the embodied soul to this physical creation. However, a person who has discarded all desires for fruit has no such association between karma and fruit. His actions are in the present moment in God consciousness, just as something appropriate for the moment and not for fulfilling any desire. Such a person is not bound to the physical creation and his life in it. He is therefore not required to return to another life, either because even his present life is not for fulfilling any desires of his. Such a person is liberated in this life itself and also liberated from repeated cycles of birth and death. Verse 17 of chapter 18. Yasya naham kruto bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa iman lokan nahanti na nibadhyate. Literal meaning: one who has no pride that he is the doer of a particular karma and whose intellect or mind does not get afflicted by the karma. Even if such a person kills all the beings, he does not get bound by the blame for that killing. Practical insight: if one genuinely has discarded doership, there is no question of any binding of papa or punya and the consequent fruits thereof in his case. It is only when one believes he is the doer of his actions that he will tend to associate his actions and the subsequent events in a cause-effect relationship. But if there is no doership, then the person will simply look at every happening independent of his own past actions, firmly established in the faith that everything is happening as a part of the big picture, without me or anyone else as the doers. Verses 37 to 39 of chapter 18. Yattadagre vishamiva pariname mrutopamam tatsukham satvikam proktamatma buddhi prasadajam vishayendriya sanyogad yattadagre mrutopamam pariname vishamiva tatsukham rajasam smrutam yadagre chanubandhe cha sukham mohanam atmanah nidralasya pramadotham tattamasamudahutam. Literal meaning: satvik pleasure is initially bitter like poison, but sweet in the end, and it arises as an outcome of contemplation on the real self. Rajas pleasure is that which arises from the contact between sense organs and their external contact objects, and is sweet like nectar in the beginning but bitter in the end. Tamas pleasure is that which misleads the mind into delusion, both in the beginning as well as in the end, and arises from sleep, laziness, and blundering. Practical insight: these verses beautifully explain the three kinds of pleasure. The fundamental lesson is that the real pleasure that should be sought by a seeker actually appears like pain in the beginning, but is in the ultimate interest of the seeker. On the contrary, what appears as pleasure upfront often turns out harmful in the end. This is very clearly seen in case of sense pleasures, which are pleasing in the beginning but lead to pain later on. On the contrary, there is pain in pursuing a spiritual path, but that is the one that leads to permanent bliss. Verses 40 and 41 of chapter 18. न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः ब्राह्मणक्षत्रियविषां सुशूद्राणां च परन्तपः कर्माणि प्रविभक्तानि स्वभावप्रभवै गुणैः. Literal meaning: we cannot find any object, living or non-living, on this earth, among humans and others, or in the heaven among gods, etc., that is free from these three gunas that have been created by Prakriti, the fundamental creative principle or nature. O Arjuna, the karmas of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras have been separated on the basis of these gunas. Practical insight. Every object in this creation is made up of a combination of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. It is the particular proportion of each of these three gunas that decide the nature of the object and how the object will act. The varna, that is the caste system, is based on this concept so that every person engages in an occupation and the corresponding duties that suit his nature. It is clear that varnas are not a family legacy, but a natural slotting in accordance with one's nature and capability. However, later on, the society seems to have found it easier to put in place a family-based caste system, probably because it helped manage the society's activities in an easier way. It was probably thought that if freedom is given to people to choose their occupation, some tasks may not find any takers, while there would be too much rush for certain other tasks. It is also possible that the elite in the society wanted to protect their own turf and didn't want anybody and everybody to step into it. I'll stop here today and continue with the rest of the verses of chapter 18 next time. Until then, bye, take care.